Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, in our journey in strategic brand management. We're looking at the model from brand vision to brand evaluation. We've been looking at the domain of visioning. We've been looking at the domain of organizational culture. Now what I want to do is I want to look at some of the issues that organizations face as they then start to set brand objectives. And ladies and gentlemen, here, because there is a big overarching view about making the environment that the brand operates in a better environment, from that, the organization then needs to start to think in terms of numbers. Now, it may sound difficult, but it's not as difficult as it may appear to be. So if I'm thinking about an organization that has to be nameless, and this organization has an intent of becoming a true global player in terms of grocery retailing. This organization, from its vision of really ensuring that the world becomes a healthier place, that vision then becomes translated in terms of a long-term goal. And the long-term goal may relate to this organization not just getting recognition, but this organization, from a reputation perspective, of then gaining respect for its brand. We travel a lot. We have TV channels that are crossing frontiers, the internet, social media. The organization now starting to take that vision and now translate that vision in terms of a big overarching objective. And against those 2 points there would be numbers. Would be numbers year 5, 4, 3, 2, back to year 1. Now, that may then sound horrible. Gosh, how are we as the management team going to do that with our brand? Well, why is it a problem? It's a problem because it's too big. So what you then have to do is you then got to take those big objectives, and then you've got to then start to say, so what smaller objectives will contribute to achieving these much bigger goals that we're trying to bring about? So the short-term goals, now when I'm talking 2, maybe 3 years, now what I'm starting to do is I'm now starting to look in terms of numbers of outlets that I'm going to have by geographical area. Now I'm starting to look at the overall structure of my sales portfolio. To what extent is it core grocery elements, and to what extent is it the delicatessens, the speciality elements that then make it really interesting to want to come into this particular chain. This organization, it could also then start to look in terms of these big objectives. This respect comes about because what it's doing is it's innovating in the categories. It's then going to have to identify categories where there's been a very staid, a very stable approach to the category. And it's now starting to think in terms of then transforming those categories that have been dull and staid by thinking in terms of which manufacturers, which organizations does it then want to start to work with. In other words, does it want to keep on emulating and copying through an own label, a retail label approach? Or is this organization genuinely now going to start to think in terms of, we're now going to lead. We're now going to lead, and we're now going to start to identify certain manufacturers. Now, can you see what's going on? Initially, you'd have run a mile, or you'd run a kilometre at the problem. Here's your stretching objective that's going to bring about this vision of a healthier environment. You're bringing it about by breaking these big things into smaller and smaller and smaller things. So people can then start to say, yeah, I've now got it. I can see what I'm doing. So when we're setting objectives, don't be put off, don't be daunted by, you've got to think these long-term horizons. I'm deliberately saying long-term horizons, because if you start thinking short-term, you'll be into incremental growth. We're looking for step changes. We're looking for step changes. And again, think about it. If I'm talking so-called fast-moving consumer goods, I want a horizon of at least 5 years. But if I'm talking high tech, maybe I'm talking a horizon of 2 years, because we expect that technology to just keep on leapfrogging. So I can't, again, be dogmatic and say to you, when I say long, I mean this number of years. You've got to understand the area that you're operating within. But when we're doing it, again, sort of inspired by some of the ways that organizations have done it. Let's say I'm an organization that is in the yogurt market, and the stretching goal in terms of level of sale is just daunting. Doing things the way I'm doing things, I'm never going to get there. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Well, it's at this stage, again, you appeal to literature. What have other people done? And in this area, I came across a writer, a lady called Wendy Gordon. And Wendy Gordon talks about a concept called need state. And it's great. Because if I'm a yogurt organization, and I'm trying to grow my yogurt sales through this horrible stretching objective that's been set, need states then give me an idea. Wendy Gordon says when people buy brand, what they're doing really is they're reflecting a need they have. And therefore the brand's got to come in and do something for me regarding that particular need state that I am in.